it was never about because there is no evidence of corruption in the laptop. None. Tell me what you think the laptop is. I mean, what
do I think the laptop is? I think that I found out about the laptop. I think the first time I found out about the laptop, I interviewed this guy, Peter Schweitzer. And that was, if I remember correctly, this was years ago, that was a major part of the interview. And he actually gave me a hard drive of the laptop.
Yeah.
And said that this had been scrubbed to take all the kiddie porn off of it. Otherwise, I couldn't have this. It would be illegal.
Yeah, exactly.
I never opened it because
yeah, but that's my point. Is that's the shit that they did.
That's what they and then of course all the pictures of you with hookers and the Burisma emails, and apparently it was all on there. And
but for instance,
the fact in that you had dropped it off to a laptop repair guy.
Yeah. So, but for instance, just that is that. Remember, the first thing that Rudy Giuliani did, it's called eliminationist rhetoric, is that he went to the steps of the Newcastle County Courthouse in Delaware and stood on the steps and demanded a meeting with the chief of the Newcastle County Police in Delaware and the state police and the attorney general and the U.S. attorney. And he said, basically, he pulled a, one of those, I have here in my hands evidence of, mistreatment of children and blah, 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 blah. It's just all complete and utter bullshit. So Peter Schweitzer, Breitbart, he said they had to scrub it of images of children. Let me ask you a question. Do you think those images would have come out by now? I mean, it is absolutely insane, in a complete and utter fabrication, a complete lie, completely. But that's where they started, because they realized that it didn't have any evidence of the corruption that they then concocted about a bribe or billions of dollars flowing through, like you say, the Burisma emails. Yeah, there were emails from and to Burisma from me as a board member of a company in which I served on, and I was transparent about, and I actually put out a press release about, in which show no evidence of any whatsoever criminal activity, any involvement of my father. Not one single communication between me and anyone in my dad's staff or my dad or anyone about me asking for a favor on behalf of a client. Not one. Not a single one. So what they originally revert to? They originally reverted to basically accusing me of the worst thing that you could possibly ever accuse anybody of. That.
Child porn.
Yeah. I mean, imagine having to wake up from that. I wake up the next day from that. And thinking, even if one of the people that you respect in the world believed that that could be true. Like, oh my God. Like, how do you ever get out of bed? And then how do you defend yourself, Sean? What do you go out and do this? You go, I'm not a pedophile. I'm not a pedophile. Like, literally, like I don't beat my wife. You know what I mean? And that's what they did. And then they just repeated it over and over again until it kind of played out, until at least some responsible journalists said, okay, like, if you keep, like, we're not going to keep repeating this because it's patently false and there's zero evidence of it. So then they moved on to the next thing. They moved on to the next thing that I was the next thing was a symbiotic relationship between the Russian GRU and like Steve Bannon and Gao, the Chinese billionaire, that ran the Chinese, that cult, in which what they determined then is that I was funding weapons labs in Ukraine with George Soros to infect migratory birds to murder the population in Russia. And that was the whole thing. That got me sanctioned by the Russians. They did like a 2.5-hour press conference on it, and then it just comes around, and then in the right wing, podcast ecosphere, from Alex Jones back to Russia, back to Chinese operatives, back to Gao, back to Bannon, and then they recycle it again. And then what ends up happening is that the New York Post and Sean Hannity, give it some credence. They don't do it in a way that is completely absurd, but they report on the accusations. And then the New York Times writes a story about the story. And then it gets on CNN, and Jake Tapper does a piece on, well, this may not be true, but clearly there's, Hunter Biden's corrupt. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And what do you do? So I started the day as a pedophile, and I went to bed as some super spy that is providing billions of dollars in funding for weapons labs. And I woke up the next morning being accused of something else. And it became almost impossible. So what I can tell you about the laptop is that there is no laptop. That's bullshit. What was provided out there,
there was no fucking laptop?
There is an actual physical laptop that somebody had. But the guy that said he had the laptop, the existence of the search for the laptop came before he was even a twinkle in Rudy Giuliani's eye. There were people, talk to Lev Parnas. Lev Parnas literally went to Ukraine to get a laptop from Dmitry Firtash, to get a hard drive, Hunter Biden's hard drive, from Dmitry Firtash and Andrei Derkach in Ukraine, in Austria. 4 months before John Paul McIsaac nobody ever existed. And so what they did is they cobbled together stolen, concocted, fabricated mishmash of digital information, largely which is, thousands and thousands and thousands of emails from 25 years. I mean, no laptop could have held all of that. And so what they did is they put it all together, and then they talk about it. I mean, John Paul McIsaac, who is literally blind, there's no videotape of me ever dropping off a laptop. There's no, whatever.
You never dropped off a laptop?
I have no recollection whatsoever of ever dropping off a laptop to John Paul McIsaac, to his shop. And so what he did, though, let me just put it this way. Say I took my laptop in to get repaired, okay? And you're John Paul McIsaac. And what he says is he reads, and he goes to repair the laptop, but then he starts to read the files in the laptop. And he reads a file, and he sees files about Burisma. By the way, a board of which I'm on, of an independent private Ukrainian company, in which I am a board member doing corporate governance as an attorney. And he says that the only thing that he can think of doing is calling Rudy Giuliani. He's a laptop repair shop owner in Wilmington, Delaware, whose store is 3.5 miles at most from where my parents live, where everybody knows my parents live. So if he had a laptop that he wanted to return, he thinks that the best thing to do is call Rudy Giuliani's lawyer, Bob Costello, and give it to my sworn enemy, who then take it, and in it, I will once again ask you this question. What crime has anyone ever...
But there was no laptop, right?
No, he took a hard drive. He took whatever he said. He said that he had a damaged laptop, and what he did is he downloaded a hard drive, and then he gave that hard drive to Bob Costello. And then from that hard drive, you have people like Patrick Byrne and Jack Maxey and a whole bunch of other people. Like, I could list the names that come together There's one woman that's like known as Cat Lady or something like that, literally. And what they say that they did is they cobbled together all of this digital material that was floating out everywhere, that had been stolen from phones, that had been taken from the dark web, that had been taken from the hard drive that John Paul McIsaac.
They consolidated it all.
And they consolidated it all, and they made it out to be this thing. And so then the story doesn't become about the laptop at all. Because there's nothing in the laptop other than a record of me being a degenerate drug addict, at the worst moment in my life. At the worst moment of my life, of people clearly, me not taking selfies, of people clearly taking pictures of me in the rooms that I found myself in, smoking crack, doing drugs, doing whatever. Nothing criminal, other than, obviously, drug use. And what other people would think is, abhorrent behavior. I mean, whatever. I mean, having sex with women. And so they take that, and then you can say whatever you want. No one read the stories. When you put me naked on the front page of the New York Post over and over again with a crack pipe in my mouth, it becomes like gold. And Miranda Devine said it was the most read, the most followed story in the history of the paper. Wow. She's written and sold 2 best-selling books based upon that. And it's all about the pictures. It's like sex, drugs, and politics, man. And that's what they did. So then it became about the cover-up of the laptop story. You know why Twitter took down that story? Because non-consensual pornography. It's because under what is the law today that was pushed by Melania Trump, it's revenge porn. You're not allowed to take a picture that is stolen from somebody's digital material of them in naked and with another person and publish it. I mean, you're not allowed to do that. It's a crime. But in my instance, and so that's what the New York Post story ran in the initial story, and it had naked pictures of me in there. And under the terms of Twitter, they took it down when I objected to it. So you got to take that down. And so they took it down, and then that became the hobby horse for everybody. Is that it was an issue of free speech, and how the deep state, buried the story. What story? That I was a drug addict, and that I was in rooms in which people took pictures of me, and I took pictures of myself. Because otherwise, I've sat across from journalists, I've sat across from detractors, and I don't know of anybody that's kind of at least more informed than you are in terms of the number of people that have come through this studio that have had an opinion about it. And I know that you prepare and you have a team that prepares. Has anyone of your team ever been able to tell you of any crime other than crimes of as it relates to illicit drug use that is on the laptop? And I mean, wouldn't you have, if there were, wouldn't you come? And by the way, obviously, like, it's all there, Sean. Like, there's nothing more to show. So there's not a single instance of a crime. And I told you is that I got investigated by Crim Tax and Maine Justice. I got 6 years of investigation of the U.S. Attorney in the state of Delaware, in the state of, in Pittsburgh, in Baltimore, in the Baltimore field office, in the Philadelphia field office, the U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles, the House Ways and Means Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, the House Oversight Committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, Oversight Committee, every one of them, and probably a number of foreign foreign intelligence agencies. Not a single criminal act has been even accused of me that is based on evidence from the laptop. So the irony is that the thing that they hang around my neck as being this, this great sin, the laptop, is in actuality evidence of the absolute bullshit of their accusations.
Wow.
So they say that I was engaged in some type of bribery in Ukraine. Now, the person that stated that to an FBI agent in an FD 1023, a confidential informant statement, was then arrested by the same special prosecutor that was prosecuting me, because they blew up my plea deal because you had Congress come to the U.S. attorney and say, this is bullshit. We know that he was engaged in bribery because we have an FD 1023, a private confidential thing, an informant that claims that he was engaged in bribery and has evidence of it. So they blow up my plea deal, okay, because of that. And they pretend like it was because some confusion as it relates to, I had immunity. Everybody gets immunity when they do a plea deal. Why would you enter a plea deal if you didn't get immunity from the federal government that they weren't going to come back and, charge you with something else? And so they blow up the plea deal and they bring this guy in, the informant, Smirnov. And they bring him in and they say, okay, tell us about this bribery. But tell us about this FD 1023 that you have members of Congress out there waving around as evidence of Joe Biden's corruption. And he basically breaks down and says, it's all bullshit. He was encouraged to do so by others. He was encouraged to do so by people in intelligence, in Russian intelligence. That's the story. Go read the story about Smirnov, who's sitting in jail, serving a sentence for lying on the FD 1023. Well, now that story blows up, what do? 3 days before the statute of limitation runs on these charges, they charge me with the things that they had just come to a plea with me on. Anyway, man, the laptop. Once again, there are people out there that have just dined out on this, the laptop. And it's become a kind of buzzword for, corruption of some kind of epic, roadmap to the Biden crime family. Tell me, other than me being a evidence of me being a crack addict, what the laptop tells you. Because not a single person that at least comes from a good place. Like you say, 10% from the big guys. Somebody sent me an email about a deal when my dad was not vice president of the United States and when he was not president of the United States, in which they proposed, if that's what they meant, that my dad, the big guy, would get 10% of the deal, of which I never entered into the deal with them and never did a deal with them.
It's funny how those details don't make it in.
And so, all of this bullshit about, for instance, 35 former, they harp on all the time. And then it became about free speech. Well, then it became about the big cover up of the story. Remember that? And they had hearings on it. And they after Elon bought Twitter and turned it into X, and they had that that reporter's name come on, and he said, lamented the fact that, the story was taken down, and the reason it was taken down is because the deep state and the CIA and, remember when the story was taken down. In the Trump administration, my dad wasn't president when the story was taken down. He wasn't vice president when the story was taken down. Trump controlled all levers of government. Twitter took down the story because it violated their own revenge porn laws, because it was publishing pictures of me naked with other people having consensual sex, but without my consent, which is an absolute and complete violation of any of the rules of Twitter or even X as it stands now. That's why they took it down. And let me ask you that. Is there anybody that's listening to this, If somebody stole your phone for whatever reason and decided that they wanted to accuse you of other things, but the way they were going to do is they were going to show you and your wife having sex naked in their bedroom. Do you think they should be able to do that and put it up on X right now?
No.
And in that, accuse you of other things? Say, Hunter Biden accused of bribery without anything to back it up, but then show a picture of you in a motel room doing drugs, naked, with a woman. Does anybody have the right to do that? Do you think that X shouldn't have taken that down, or that Twitter shouldn't have taken that down? Because I'll tell you what it did is that Bannon's a genius, because then that became the story, and that became the cover up, and that became the thing that was the great injustice, which led into the whole J6 thing and the stop the steal part of it. And if they had just let the story of Hunter Biden's laptop come out, they actually that's where how the election was stolen. Is that if the corruption that the laptop proved, well, I keep going back to, what did it prove? And I keep coming back to the idea, I don't know of anybody that is more informed in terms of the people that they have spoken to than you. Has anybody been able to tell you what Hunter Biden's laptop proves?
No.
I know. And so here I am, 6 years later, Sean, and I'm still talking about a fucking laptop that actually it's not even a laptop. It's an amalgamation of concocted digital material that has been stolen from me over the course of 22 years, and some of it fabricated. And all you got to do is just add a little bit here and there. I mean, that's what Gao did. And there's tapes of it. There's tapes of Gao talking to Bannon the night before the election in 2020, in which he's talking about how they've taken the hard drive to New Zealand and they're manufacturing pictures of me with children in China.
Are you serious?
Yes, there's literal. You literally have Gao. I mean, go to the Mother Jones.
You have access to that?
Yeah, go to Mother Jones. It's all unreported, but nobody listens. I mean, literally, there are tapes of Bannon, Gao, and others sitting around talking about how they've stolen the laptop, how they've stolen the hard drive, and how they're manufacturing images because they can do you can say whatever you want at this point. Go listen to the tapes. They're literal tapes.
He was very close to winning outright then and shutting down Trump. That the hard drive from hell stopped his momentum. Then the other thing is the way we drove up Biden's negatives. The only thing that stopped the momentum was the hard drive from hell, right? And two parts of that were Luda's editorial creativity over the pictures, and really the CCP involvement. That's what shocked the American people. Sleepy Joe, he never drove up Biden's negatives. It was only when we got the hard drive and got it to you that in the post. Yeah. If you look at here's where the Bidens fucked up. From the day the Post story came out, and then you started pumping out, we got you the stuff, and you started just dumping it out, and then the internet started picking up, and they suppressed it. Remember, the best thing that happened to us was Twitter and Facebook suppressing it, because then everybody wants to see it. Remember, we hammered this guy every day for 10 days with the worst pictures in the world, drug addict, taking money from CCP, from Chinese spies, no response. Nothing. And the negatives just keep going up because people are sitting there going, I didn't know that about Joe Biden, but Joe Biden, not one person came out and said those pictures are not true, right? Nobody came out and said anything you're saying is not true. Even the wildest allegations, when Trump got COVID and when Trump had that first debate, within that 1 week period, Biden could have put him away. The campaign would have been over. Biden would have won with 500 electoral votes. But they didn't do it, and we were able to stop it. So now, I'm not saying Trump's going to win, but we have a fighting chance.
These are legit?
Oh, 100% legit. 100%.
I mean, I would believe Mother Jones, but they wrote a hit piece on me that's complete bullshit.
Yeah. Well, by the way, the tapes exist, and I will send you the link to the Mother Jones article with the physical tapes that no one's ever denied actually exist. Oh, by the way, with Bannon's partner,
Interesting.
Miles Kwok, who by the way is in prison for the next 45 years from stealing over $1.8 billion from Chinese dissidents.
Do you know why this?
He's the one that lit his apartment on fire when the FBI raided it in the Sherry Netherland on Park Avenue.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they raided his apartment. He had the penthouse as a Sherry Netherland, or that one right on Park Avenue, and the FBI came in, and all of the hard drives went up in flames and burned the whole penthouse apartment on Park Avenue. By the way, Steve Bannon's partner, who at that exact same time, Steve Bannon is sitting with Jeffrey Epstein, coaching him about how he can, fool the American people into the fact that he's not really a fucking pedophile. That's Steve Bannon, who concocted this whole thing, who put this whole thing together, and handed parts of it off to Rudy Giuliani. I mean, it's all there. Talk to Noel Dumpy, his assistant. Talk to Lev Parnas. I mean, Lev Parnas says the entire Russia thing, the entire thing about Ukraine and bribery and the corruption of the Biden family. He was the guy that Giuliani literally deputized, that Trump literally deputized, to go to Ukraine and dig up dirt on me. Talk to Lev Parnas. Lev Parnas says it's all bullshit. We made it all up.